Here we are. All right. Cheers, everybody, or anybody. Happy Thursday, Thirsty Thursday. Hopefully, like me, the rough part of your week is just about over with. Heavy lifting, and you just got to get through a few things on Friday, and then it's the weekend. So here's what we're going to do tonight. I've got a guest, Gary Franchi, World's Worst Bourbon Channel. He was generous enough to provide me with a flight of Old Carter whiskeys. So I thought it would be fun to have him on, kind of go through these with him. I'm not very familiar with Old Carter at all. I've had a pour at a bar once. I do know enough to know that it's top shelf stuff. It's very scarce and it's supposed to be some of the best stuff around. So I'm anxious to get after it. I know these are going to be some amazing pours. So hopefully you guys have something in hand and you're going to join us. Let's have some fun. See a few people already in. All right. I see super fan number 99. Cheers, buddy. Hope you got something good in the Glen. We've got Marty, the whiskey nose. All right, buddy. Good to see you. Tater Dom. What's up? What's everybody got in their Glens here tonight? Marty, I know you got something. Sugar Kitty, meow. Hope you're doing all right. I'm going to go ahead and bring Gary on here and we're going to start drinking. So hopefully you guys are too. And let's have some fun.
That's a great shirt.
That's a great shirt.
I love
you
it.
On there.
You know, I think when I saw it, I didn't look closely enough because I thought it just had the WWBC logo. And I'm like, I got to have it. So I clicked. And then when it showed up, I'm like, oh, I didn't know what the awards were. I wasn't paying attention. But I knew I had to have it. And it seemed like the perfect occasion to bust it out.
Yes.
So maybe we'll be in the running for one of the awards here for worst stream going forward. Just keep us in mind.
Something I can definitely contribute to.
All right. So what do you got there, Marty? A 9-year limousine rye French oak stave. Well, that sounds fantastic. What we're going to be getting into, we got a flight of 5 of Gary's Old Carter collection here. Just to kind of run you through so you know what I've got here in front of me. I've got the Old Carter Rye Batch 7. Got the Old Carter Bourbon Batch 4. Got the Old Carter, and then I think this is a single barrel. It says barrel 48. And it says 12-year bourbon. So that sounds like it's going to be a good one. We've got the Old Carter Kentucky Whiskey Batch 2 OC.
That's the Locker Club bottle.
Oh. And then last, we've got a heater coming in at 139.6 proof. It's the Old Carter 13-year American Whiskey Batch 4. So we'll build up to the high octane stuff as we go through here. But first, I just want to say thank you for being generous enough to give me these. And I know, kind of where we came from, or where this came about. I know that you're a fan of Old Carter. I can see the bottles in your background, and I think it must have been for my birthday when I was down in Bardstown. It was the first time I seen in Old Carter behind a bar that I could actually get a pour of. So I was like, I gotta have that. And I don't remember which batch or release it was. They only had one behind the bar. And I thought it was just fantastic. And I know that I reached out to you and I said, I know I could certainly get used to these.
Yeah.
And then, at some point later on in the summer, we traded samples and you were nice enough to give these to me. So I appreciate that. It's very generous.
My pleasure.
A set of samples here. So let's talk a little bit about Old Carter. So I've been, I would say, a little bit more into whiskey than a normal person for the last maybe 5-6 years. And it's not a brand that I've really gotten into. And there's probably a few reasons. I mean, the obvious would be that, it doesn't see distribution into Michigan, which is
Right.
where I am. And two, these are higher price bottles, so it's you kind of got to know what you're getting into. And I just
Yes.
haven't been able to sample them to know what it is and what I'm missing, and if it's something that I gotta go after. So um, I'm really interested to get into to some of these here tonight. So let
Yes.
me ask you this, Gary. How is it that you got into Old Carter? Is it at the beginning of your whiskey journey, or somewhere in between, later
Um,
on?
Not at the very beginning. My One of my daughters moved down to Kentucky, down to Louisville, and so I would be going down there regularly to visit. And one of the places I would usually go is early on when Justin's House of Bourbon opened up. And one of the days that I was in there, a couple people roll in. They were having a good time. And the older gentleman asked the lady behind the bars, any good whiskey on the shelf. She says Old Carter, and they both have a laugh. And I just sort of like, that must be an inside joke. And he
Mhm.
introduces himself as Mark Carter. So I ended up trying some, and kind of figured out quick that it was kind of a step above. And I was also hesitant at the price, because at that point I wasn't really, I don't think I was ready to kind of spend that much on a bottle of whiskey. And
Mhm.
but after I tried it a couple times, it's like, okay, it's worth it. It's like, I'd rather buy one bottle of this than two or three shelfer bottles,
Uh-huh.
and have something really good. And then the floodgates just kind of opened up.
As it often does, right?
Yeah, as you know, I, I got into bourbon back in 2019, and one of the stories that I usually tell, and I'll try to make it extra short. Did a tour at Old Forester. The last drink on the tasting was Statesman. Really liked it, but looked it up. It's like, oh, that's a $55 bottle. I'm not sure I want to spend that on a bottle of whiskey. And these days, I I cry a happy tear when a bottle I want is only $55.
There's not much left at that price point, it seems.
Yes, but no, so I went headlong into it. I've been fortunate enough to spend time and run into the Carters at events, spend time with them, and also get to know other people that are into it. So I've you know that's been a very positive part of my
So,
whiskey
do they have
experience.
like their own storefront type thing in Louisville?
So they did open up. Well, they do have a place that's a couple doors down from Justin's House of Bourbon. That's where they're doing would do their bottling. If they before the club started up, they would do single barrel drops, and that's where they would do them from. And then the social club, the locker program, the lockers are upstairs to that. But it's not a shop that is open to the public on on any set hours. It was never that. It was never meant to be that, from my understanding.
So the angle that they're taking is there's an exclusivity element, obviously.
Yes, and with the whole limited nature of the brand, that's it kind of makes sense
But some
around
of
that.
these do see distribution into Kentucky and outside
Oh,
of
oh
Kentucky.
yes. So originally they were doing everything out through regular distribution. It started in Kentucky because they were based out of that. It was in California because that's where they had been, and that's where Mark has the Carter Cellars and in that, and then limited to a couple other states, and they've added some states over the years, but as they've added the states, the bourbon single barrels, those went from being distribution to being what was released through those pop-ups.
All right. So the first one that I've got opened up here is going to be this Rye Batch 7. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this.
Yes.
And while I'm doing that, I notice a few more people show up in chat here. I see Sabolo Dave. What's up, buddy? I see Troy from Baker Drinks. Fiend.
Right.
What's going on, Ty? I saw another name. I think I saw Josh Fritz. Trying to scroll up.
Yep.
What's up, Josh?
Saw Josh as well.
Enjoying your Thursday night. What do you say here, Dave? Love American Batch 11 is one of my all-time favorites. So there's a dude that knows his whiskey, and he probably will tell you the best cigar to pair it with too. All right. So what can you tell me about this Rye Batch 7? It looks like it comes in at 155 proof. Do we know if it's a blend? If it's got an age?
115.5 proof.
Okay.
So yes, it is a blend. All of their ryes have been sourced MGP ryes. I believe they're 95.5. They all seem to have the profile of that. And one of the things I kind of learned and sort of noticed is they had a tendency to drop things 2 at a time. So they would, like Bourbon Batch 4 and 5 came out together. Rye Batch, I think Rye Batch 5 and 6 came out together. And what I heard is that there tended to be a Mark blend and a sherry blend.
Okay.
And sherry's blends tend to be much more of a sweeter profile. Mark's blends tend to have that rye spice. They, little bit more oak to them from the ones that I've noticed over the time. And batch 7 was a sherry blend. Batch 7, 8, and 9 ryes all dropped together. And, I heard this from them directly. 7 was Sherry's blend, 8 was Mark's blend, and 9 was a blend of 7 and 8, the whiskey that was used in 7 and 8.
All right, so you think this is 95.5 MGP, and I think, maybe based on other conversations we've had, one of the common notes on the nose that you might get is bubblegum, because that's what I'm getting on this. Straight away is a lot of bubblegum.
And their ryes tend to have a fair amount of spearmint as well.
I don't get that so much on the nose.
Yeah.
I definitely get it on the palate, like in the middle of my tongue. I definitely taste a little bit of spearmint, but it's not like that bright spearmint. It's almost like it's saturated with brown sugar. It's like a heavy spearmint. So I don't get I think it's like that bright spearmint note I don't love so much. Like I get it like in Angel's Envy, like crazy.
Yeah.
But that spearmint note, if it's lighter, it's not something that is my favorite profile. But this is a bit different. It's like spearmint covered in molasses or something.
Yeah. So what? If people know about the Carters, they started up Kentucky I'll with Dixon Deadman, and one of the things that Kentucky I'll does, and one of the things that the Carters have done, with the exception of their single barrels, they do a lot of rebarreling, whether it's charred, whether it's toasted, whether it's a mix of those. So in terms of getting that extra sweetness, getting the extra oak on things, that's not a surprising note to get from.
So do we know if this one was had, I guess it would essentially be like a double oaking.
Right. To what extent it was, and what barrels they use, what char, what toast level they use, that is all proprietary.
Gotcha.
I couldn't when I've had conversations with them, that it sort of ends of we rebarrel. That's they mentioned toasted on some, and just it's different levels for different releases. I believe that just do that to when it makes sense, and then they go with it.
Well, we're off to a great start. I think this is really good. The finish is a little shorter than I would have expected, based on how pronounced and almost explosive it is on the palate.
Right. And with the batched releases of the bourbons and the ryes, they've never been age stated. So I'm yeah. So where
you have a guess on this one? Or maybe it's a blend of two different age statements.
It could be a blend, but that's so the rebarreling, the extra oak does add a lot of complexity, but it doesn't always necessarily translate to one of those finishes that goes on forever that you get from high age whiskey.
You know what I'll say is, as soon as I said that, I took another sip, and it is getting a little bit bigger. Maybe it's opening up, but yeah, there's a lot of layers going on here. Like, you probably sit and pick this apart, but I'm just gonna drink it because I think it's damn good.
So one of my brothers drinks bourbon as well, but he readily admits he doesn't, he's not deeply into it. He'll
it's not geeking out like we are.
Yeah, he'll give himself a pour over ice, and anytime I've gone there, I've tried to bring some different things in it, and he always tells me it's like I'm not going to be able to tell the difference between bottom shelf, top shelf. That's not the experience that he goes for. And I happened to have this bottle with me when we got together, and he tried it, and he was immediately like, no, this is different. And
you can't tell until you can tell, right?
Yes. And I saw Marty made a comment about Dixon played a larger behind the scenes role in Old Carter before they started. That I was unaware of.
Well, Gary, do you think this? I saw that Troy.
Do I think that he did? Sorry, it would help if I read it correctly.
I'm sorry.
No, I saw the last of it. I didn't read the front of it. I don't think Dixon was involved at all when they started. I think there was he stayed with Kentucky I'll, and they, I think, just decided to go off on their own. But I'm speculating so on that. I've never heard anything that would lead me to believe that that Dixon had any sort of part in it early on.
All right, and I see Troy mentioned he's got bourbon 4, and Troy, that's actually what we're gonna sip next, right?
Yes, and I'm getting dangerously low on that.
Uh-oh. Now, bourbon batch 4, do we know what year that would have been put out? Was this like 19 or 20?
I think that was 20. Bourbon batch 4 came out as the same time as bourbon batch 5. And it was when Jason from the Mash and Drum did his video on Bourbon Batch 5 that it just seemed to take, really blow up Old Carter amongst whiskey folks.
Really?
But I'm pretty sure that was 2020.
Well, yeah, this Rye Batch 7 it's really damn good. And again, if it's double oaked or toasted, I don't know, but there's levels, and it's dense. I get a little bit of that spearmint as I drink through it, but not much. I get more of the saturated, molasses, sweetness, and the finish does get a little bit longer as I drink through it. Yeah, this is really good.
Good.
All right, so how does this rate amongst your faves?
So let's see. In terms of all the bottles that I have, I've got 2 batches of rye. I've got batch 5 and I've got batch 7. Both of those are sherry blends. And I would, if I drink, I don't seem to go to the rye that often. Not that I don't love it,
Mm-hmm.
but and that's the other thing about having about 200 open bottles is you tend to keep
They
bouncing
tend to
around.
last a little longer. I've noticed that.
Right. It does last. And also I enjoy to the point where I really don't want to, plow through a bottle of it. Cause
Yeah.
a lot of times for the old Carter, I only break these out when I get a chance to share them with people. So that's, if I'm just having to pour on my own, I tend not to grab from that shelf.
Yeah. Fair. See a few more folks joining the chat. I see Smoking Firewater. What's up? I see Kelsey Dime. What's up, buddy? Peter White. Tell me what you guys are drinking tonight. I'm about to pour the Old Carter Bourbon Batch 4. A nice kind of like amber copper color to it. I don't know if you can see that. It's got some legs.
Yes, and this is also an MGP bourbon. So one of the things I learned more recently is for their MGP bourbons, they'll use the 21% rye, but they will also use the 99.1 mash bill bourbon from MGP. So their batch bourbons that are much sweeter. And this is what I noticed, like when 7, 8, 9, and 10 came out, 2 of those had a lot more oak rye spice to them, and 2 of them were quite a bit sweeter, which didn't surprise me from what I know about how they tend to release. But knowing now that they have that 99.1 bourbon mash bill from MGP, that would explain why some of the batches are so much sweeter than the others.
All right, now this one definitely strikes me as spicy, especially towards the back of the palate. Starts out kind of tame, little like subtle sweetness, and then boom, the spice really smacks you in the back. Yeah, that's pretty darn tasty as well.
This has been, this has always been one of my favorites amongst the bottles that I have. And that's every time I share that one, people seem to feel that that's got another gear on it from a lot of the other bourbons they drink.
It's almost hits me like a Four Roses, barrel strength. Oh, it's got like the mellowy, the mellow sort of vibe up front, and then hits you on the back end.
Well, I mean, you do know the history between like Four Roses and MGP, that those distilleries were kind of once owned by the same company before they diverged.
No, I did not. All right, so I see Tim Cornet. What's up, buddy? Who's drinking the Disco 12? I have not seen that here yet. Curious to see what you think about it. Smoking Firewater. You tried that one yet, Gary?
Yes, it's delicious. I already have my bottle of it. It helps to be close to the Indiana border.
You can't get that on the west side of the state?
I think it's dropped a little bit, but one of the stores in Indiana that we've worked with, my bourbon group that I run, there's a store that we work with, and we were able to grab a couple bottles out of there when he got it in.
Do they have Total Wine on the west side of the state, Gary?
Yeah, there is one in Grand Rapids.
Okay. That's where they've got the discos sitting on shelves. Out here is at Total Wine. I want to say they still had 11 sitting on the shelf. Last time I was in there a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's also another great batch.
Yeah, I had a sample of that. I really liked it. I just never pulled the trigger. I think I was, buying something or else, picks
Yeah.
here and there, and the price tag, it's not cheap. Um,
Yeah.
but I,
Well, I
I
mean,
certainly had it in my hand a few times.
yeah, I mean, Disco 11 is basically Russell's 13 Junior,
Yeah,
allegedly.
yeah. NDA's notwithstanding, right?
Yes. I mean, but you look at the mash bill, you taste the profile. It's not rocket science at that point.
Yeah, this just reminds me of a really good Four Roses barrel strength.
Yeah. And it is just sticking to the glass.
It is thick. Yeah, as soon as I poured it, like I could see how it's sticking to the edges here. Yeah, another great whiskey here for sure. And that comes in at 116.8. Yeah, it doesn't drink it for sure. I would guess it's closer to 100.
Yeah.
It's slippery smooth at the finish.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had anything from them. I mean, they release everything at barrel strength. Whatever comes out of the barrel at, that's what it's released at.
Mhm.
But I've never had anything like really, throttle me proof wise. Even when we get to that American whiskey, you can't hide near hazmat, but it's I've had things lower proof that drank proofier than that.
Yeah, for me, I think American light whiskey, or even Canadian light whiskey, I guess, tends to drink a lot lighter than its proof.
Right.
I know that's not what light is intended to mean in that particular context, but it
Right.
does seem like like some of them are like 150 or 148 proof. They
Right.
drink
And that's
120.
because they don't drop it into new oak barrels.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get a lot of what you get when you barrel with something in a brand new one.
All right, Dave Vogel saying, "What's up, buddy? You got to have some Will Carters on your shelf, don't you?" All right, so I'm going to reach for the Barrel 48 12-year bourbon. So this is a single barrel, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And what else can you tell me about it?
So their single barrels are all distilled in Kentucky. The single barrel bourbons are all distilled in Kentucky. And
Okay. So that's obviously not MGP. Do we have any idea what it is?
It's thought to be Barton.
Okay.
Although there's been an occasional single barrel or two where some people kind of think it comes off more Heaven Hillish than Barton, but with all the people I've had conversations with, it Barton tends to be the general consensus.
Now, when I hear Barton, I think 1792. Is there anything else that they make that is real common?
So in terms of higher age things from Barton that you may have had, if you've had the Calumet 15 or 16,
okay.
the Sam Houston, that's higher age Barton. And I don't know if they end up selling those barrels because it doesn't fit the 1792 profile. Because I found that I don't really drink a ton of 1792. I've never really gotten too much into that.
No, I want to say that was one of the bourbons that I started, early on when I started getting into bourbon, like the small batch, and then the bottled in bond, and I think now I've got on my shelf just a full proof, and I got that sweet wheat, which I don't like at all.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I have a bottle of sweet wheat. The first time I tried it, there had been so much hype around it, and that it's always tough when a bottle gets so much hype that you don't really give it a fair evaluation. The first time I tried it, I tried some other wheaters around it, and I thought the other were better than that. The second time I had it, I went in with no expectations, and I enjoyed it a lot more. And buddy of mine,
Oh,
Travis, ended up gifting me a bottle of it.
I'll have to try it in a blind because anytime I reach for it, there's just something about the palate that does not, hit me real well.
Yeah, and I
Um,
don't know if
but like you said, it was one of those bottles that everyone had built up, and
Oh, yeah.
didn't see a lot of shelves here in Michigan. And then when I finally saw it, I was super excited to grab it. I think I probably paid 20 or 30 bucks over um, MSRP, and got it home, and it's like, oh, oh, that's it.
yeah, I mean,
Do something.
I think it's Elmer T. Lee's a lot like that. If you get Elmer T. Lee for $40 a bottle, I think it's a great bottle at $40. As soon as that price starts creeping up, it gets disappointing in a hurry compared to the other things that secondary for the longest time was over 200 on it. I don't mind spending $200 on a bottle these days, obviously, but there's ones that are
It's gotta be worth it.
And ones that are just going on reputation and scarcity only. And so, I mean, I was lucky enough one of the times I was down in Kentucky to wander into a Kroger's at a time that they just got a case of Elmer in. So I was out the door for under $40 on my Elmer T. Lee, and I enjoy it for that.
Yeah, having had that a few times, that's what it feels like, is about a $30-$40 bottle.
Yeah.
The last time I actually had it, it was last summer. I went to a restaurant and I saw it was on the menu on their, pretty basic bourbon list. So I ordered that. They served it to me in a pint glass, and it was like halfway up. Like, wow.
Well, I mean, it is only 90 proof, so
yeah. So I mean, and it drinks like 80, 90 proof whiskey. It's really light.
yeah.
But I wasn't disappointed, with the
Yeah.
size of the pour they gave me for like $12 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to tell other people's stories, but Michael Klein's, it's like he's like that used to be my golf bag whiskey, because he's like, somebody fits in the golf bag well. Everyone seems to enjoy it, and it's nice to have a lower proof if you're out on the course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you're going to get limited depth and complexity at 90 proof.
Yeah, it's not a very complicated experience. All right.
Yeah.
What does Marty say here? Sweet wheat had not body and texture and was so bland on the palate. I thought it was $100. No, I don't think I paid that, Marty. I want to say it's like a $50 bottle. I might have paid 70 or something.
Yeah, I believe retail is, at least Michigan, is around $500. $50. I saw when you put that
case.
all of a sudden my mind moved into the hundreds. So my favorite old Carter bottle, and I only got a chance to try it once. It was one of the very old Carter releases, which was a 27-year American whiskey. That has fallen, that's in my top 5 pours of all time. And I've been stupid lucky in what I've gotten to try over these.
So they actually have like a sub label called Very Old Carter.
So yeah, they put out a couple single barrels of the 27-year American whiskey. Some of the yields, I've heard yields were as low as like 25, 30 bottles on some of them. And like they drop for like $550. But they are an experience to have. I mean, it's just, if you've, well, when we get to the American whiskey, I mean, it is several steps above the American whiskey. And that's a phenomenal American whiskey that we got a couple drinks from now.
So tell me about, what would you compare this 12-year batch 4 that we're drinking What would you compare it to?
Um,
Like if somebody wanted to have a similar experience with something they can maybe get their hands on, is there something that this reminds
that's
you of?
that's a damn good question.
I do get quite a bit of oak on this one. It
Yeah,
feels to me older than 12 years of, but
yeah.
I'm not the
I mean
best at
that's
picking out age. But
yeah. I mean that's the different single barrel bourbons that I've had from them. Those ones always seem to be next level for even what they are. The I know Justin's House of Bourbon release under their own label some high age 14, 15-year single barrels that you would mistake for this. And they were very, they were similarly priced, and from from the from the whispers and rumblings and conversations around it, it sounded like that was coming from a very, wherever they were getting their stuff was where the Carters had gotten these barrels.
all right, so how would you
But
compare this to say like, I don't know, what are the denominations of Calumet that you can get? Like 15, 16, okay, like a 12 or something?
Well, I mean, I would put it more on par with like the 15 or 16. The Calumet releases are larger blends. If you had the Sam Houston 15, the Sam Houstons tend to be 2 or 3 barrel blends. I would, probably a Sam Houston 15, but even those that weren't released at cast strength, I believe they were proofed down a bit.
I want to say what the Calumets are, around 109-ish.
I know the Lucky 7 proprietor. If you got like a 14-year Lucky 7 proprietor, it would be on par with that.
All right, that tracks, because that's probably coming from around the same place, right?
Yes. But a lot of times when I've brought single barrels to places, the people I share it with are simultaneously happy and also pissed at me because I just cost them a lot of money. Because most of the reaction, especially to the single barrels, has been,
I gotta get
one. Have one now. So I would, and before we spun off our own group, we were part of a larger group in this, the area that I'm in, and they'd actually started a friggin' Franchi hashtag because of, I was sharing Four Gates, I was sharing Old Carter, and all of a sudden there's a lot of people that started acquiring Four Gates and acquiring Old Carters.
I kind of get the idea. That's what your MO is, because I think one of the first things that you gave me was a 4-gate, and I'd never had a 4-gate before that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sharing it is the fun of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I am, when I'm on my own, if I have a pour, I mean, I'd be shocked, if I would have more than an ounce or two in a night. I don't, it's usually when I'm getting together with people, sharing things, trying things. That's when I'm, really, more into it in that, and to be able to bring things that people haven't tried before, and to be able to bring things that, maybe people would probably never buy on their own. That's half the fun. And the more that I've done that for people, the more that it's been done for me. I mean, I have no right to be as, lucky as I've been in terms of, who I've gotten to hang out with, what things have been shared with me. And, I just feel like I fail upwards in this community.
Well, it also kind of feels like you like to pay it forward.
Yeah, pour it forward. That
Pour it forward. There you go.
Pour it
I like
forward.
that.
That's
It's catchy.
Yeah, I haven't trademarked that, but that's not really my MO. So
All right. So if I'm going to say, my favorite as between this batch 4 and the single barrel, I think I'm probably giving the edge to this to the batch 4. Not by
you know,
much, but
right.
um that single barrel is really good, but that batch 4, ooh, that's special.
I mean, when you have people who know how to blend, I mean, I love a good single barrel, but with single barrels, you get what you get.
Right.
And yeah, and I've had plenty of fantastic ones, but when you have people that can blend and kind of achieve, you know, if there's notes that aren't quite right, they can fix them. You know, they can auto tune it to perfection.
Yeah,
And
the way that I look at it is with a single barrel, it's a bit more luck, where with a
yeah,
blend, there's more skill involved.
it's skill, definitely.
Um, and I think a lot of circles this year I've heard that. I think people are recognizing, more the talent that's involved with putting together blends. That's kind of coming more to the forefront than the actual distilling and maturing. But
Right.
the blending is where the real talent's coming in.
I mean, I think there's probably a reason that Nancy Fraley could probably work 24/7 if she didn't feel like sleeping anymore. Um, and other, some similar folks out there.
She seems to have her fingerprints on a lot of different brands these days, right?
Yeah, it's amazing what watching channels and in chats, and when like a new brand pops up and it seemingly comes out of nowhere, then it doesn't seem to take that long. I was here, then all of a sudden it's like, oh,
Yeah, Nancy
look look
Fraley
look,
helped us
look
together.
who was blending it. Shocker. I mean, I had the chance to have the Jay Henry, some of their special releases. When I went out to see Big League Bourbon himself, Chris Luddig, who lives right on the Wisconsin border, and it's like, this is like 5-year-old whiskey from Wisconsin, and I'm like, it has no right being this good.
I
Oh,
thought the
Nancy
exact same thing
Fraley's
about that. The first time I tried the Still Austin cast strength bourbon, I felt the
right.
exact same. I'm like, holy shit, this is 2 years old.
Yeah,
But, one, I would have never guessed that it was from Texas. Second, I would have never guessed it was that young.
yeah,
It's just a different animal altogether.
yeah.
What's up, Carlos? How you doing, buddy?
And just some of those Magnus cigar blends,
I did. I got a sample
masterpieces.
recently. It's from Dave. Dave Vogelsang sent me a sample of that Murray Hill, the latest one.
Oh, that's the Calvados finish. Yes.
Yeah, I'm anxious to give that one a shot because I hear it's fantastic.
Yeah, when she was on a streamer in chat talking about that, and it's like, I must own that. When that comes out, it's like it's like, I don't care if I'm done buying bottles. I don't care if I'm done spending money. It's like, I'm buying myself a present, and that's it. And I've gotten into it, and I have not been disappointed by it.
So, do you buy a lot of the Magnus cigar blends?
No,
Or have you?
I've had 3 of them.
Okay.
I've had batch 39, batch 59, which was the Michigan batch 2, and then I've got batch 92, which is their 150th anniversary release.
So, if you can remember the batches that you've had, you're on a different level. It's one of those bottles I think about. It's either last year or 2 years ago. My buddy brought one home from, I forget what state he was traveling in. But he had saw it on the shelf because it was, it's still hit and miss. At that particular time, it's hard to find around here.
Right.
And he sent us a picture. He's like, "Should I get this?" And we're like, "Yeah, get it while you're there." So he brought it home, and we were hanging out. I had a pour of it, and it just absolutely blew me away. I don't remember what batch it is.
Yeah.
Look it up, but it's amazing. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, I gotta rush right out and get one, right? And couldn't because it's not around,
Right.
at the time anyway. It's now there's more stores where you can get it, but anyway, it was maybe a couple of months later. I found one and I grabbed it. And I'm not paying attention to what batch it is. It's just you get what you get. You don't get to pick and choose around here.
Right.
You get something or you don't.
Yeah.
And it was completely different.
Yeah.
Like I would have never guessed it was under the same label. It was just a completely different experience.
Right.
If I put them head to head, I would have never guessed that these are both Magnus cigar blends. Like what? It is just completely different.
Well, that's why she would often put out tasting notes for each batch because they were wildly different. There was one, I believe it was called the Pirate batch because it came off with very rum-like notes to it. And so yes, they can be all over the place in terms of, if you have one and have another, it's like, it is a different experience. They're all, they're all still meant to pair wonderfully with the cigar, but it's she doesn't try to force them to a certain profile. She tries to bring the best out of.
Yeah, it just seemed like you just go for something bold.
Yeah.
Kind of, stack up against a cigar. And what I thought was cool is I think I looked on their website and some of the batches actually have names based on what the profiles are, and I thought that was really cool.
Yes.
I don't think at the time the one that I got didn't even show up there, so I don't know what other people were getting on it, but it was almost like a chocolate covered trail mix or something like that.
Yeah.
Really
apparently when she writes those tasting notes, it takes her a long time to go through, and she's said, an extraordinary amount of time. So I guess that she's fully commits to trying to pull everything out of there and put that together in the notes. So that's probably one of the reasons that there's been lags at time in the notes. Or
I think some of them might have actually been written by other people. Like I thought one of them might have been on there from I think it might have been Todd at Do 1090. It might have gotten credit for one of those. I could be wrong, but I want to say that. I was looking at the site. All right, so I'm going to take things up a notch here, proof wise. So this is the Old Carter Kentucky whiskey batch 2, and then it's got the OC suffix, and you said that has to do with the locker
yeah.
club?
So part of the benefits of being a club member is that there are a certain number of releases each year. That is where they ended up moving some of the single barrel releases to, as well as doing some small batch blends that were exclusive to members. And as the number would suggest, that was the second in the series of releases.
You start off with an exclusive club, and then you get even more exclusive within that club. I mean,
right.
At some point, it's like just 2 or 3 people, right? Super exclusive.
Yes. But this one is what they call a straight Kentucky whiskey. So it's similar to the American whiskey, but they wanted a different label on it because the American whiskeys are sourced MGP. The Kentucky is not, so I guess they wanted that differentiation on them. Despite my best efforts, I could never pry anything from anybody about this one.
Well, I'll tell you what, the nose makes it seem like whatever's in here is going to be elite.
But from so it's Kentucky whiskey since it's not bourbon, and as near as I can figure out, if I try to go logically from everything around it, if I had to guess, and if somebody put a gun to my head, I I would likely say that this is it's probably Heaven Hill corn whiskey that's been rebarreled and
Okay.
such. I don't think when it came out that Bardstown Bourbon Company would have had stuff old enough that would have made sense for it to be them, but Bardstown would have been the only other guess, because in terms of places not in terms of Kentucky distilleries making something other than bourbon and rye, there's not really a lot of them in terms of the big ones. So in terms of who would put out something that's a corn whiskey or an American whiskey, it's kind of Heaven Hill and Bardstown.
What I'm getting just off of smelling it, it's like a really dense, like caramel corn note. Like maybe Cracker Jack or something too. But it smells, I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but it smells substantial.
And it's substantial enough that I had to break out the
Got the Darth
exclusive
Vader Glen.
Destination Bourbon Glen, one of four in existence from what I've been told.
All right, so this is my wheelhouse right here. And what it's reminding me of as I sip it, Gary, is like the Rebecca Creek double barrel, like Spanish oak, almost the 13th Colony double oaked. Like it's got a certain viscosity and darkness to it, richness of flavor. These are the types of, this is my wheelhouse right here.
Yeah. But is it drinking 130 proof?
It's got me feeling pretty good, I'll tell you that.
Oh, fair.
It's not blowing me away on the finish.
Right.
Like it's not like, oh my God, what is this? 150. No, I probably wouldn't guess that it's 130, but it's probably every bit of 120. But it just feels so good. Like the mouthfeel on this one. This is outstanding.
Yeah. Marty, I get why you might think Four Roses on that, but knowing that it's not bourbon, yeah, that's what throws them out of it.
Marty, is this what you're drinking right now too? The same one that we just sipped on? The one that I got in my hand? If so, tell me what you think it compares to.
At 8:19, he said he's pouring some of this.
Yeah, this is killer. This is easily my favorite of the bunch so far.
And what was funny about this one when they started dropping some of the Kentucky whiskeys, I think a lot of people were very hesitant about it because it wasn't bourbon, it wasn't the American whiskey. What the heck is this? And again, I get people's hesitancy when you have something that gets the premium pricing to just take a leap of faith on it without really having gotten into it, getting the chance to try it. And also, it's always nice to try these things without the preconceived notions on it, or
right.
Or it's like, well, this doesn't taste like their bourbon. Well, it's not a bourbon, or this doesn't taste like the American whiskey. Well, it's not from the same place. It's that's the reason they gave it its own labeling in that, and that's what I tried to do with this flight, is to give you one sample off of every type of label that they did, save for the very old Carter, because unfortunately I don't have one, and I would have been more than happy to share it if I did, but I was never, I never had the chance to get one when they released, and I don't feel like spending $6,000 on secondary to get a bottle of it.
Wow.
I'm
So these are pretty sought after on the secondary market.
uh
It would have to
well
be, right?
I mean they would have to be for somebody to post them at that price and expect to get that. I think I've only, since I've been looking at things, I think I've only seen a bottle of it show up twice. Because I have a feeling that a lot of the people who grabbed them probably were already familiar with Old Carter and they wanted them to actually drink.
Yeah, this is the type. This is the profile that just really speaks to me. I love this.
Yeah.
So you've tried? Have you tried those other ones that I mentioned, like the Rebecca's Creek and the 13th
I've,
Valley?
I've had the Rebecca's Creek, the Spanish Oak.
Yeah,
that one I've tried. I and I do tend to like a lot of the double oaks.
yeah, they just get so dense and rich.
Yes. Again, talking about just stupid experiences I've gotten to be a part of. I ended up joining Hello Again Whiskey Friends before they were officially Hello Again Whiskey Friends. Met up with them in Kentucky, and we did the Better Tour at, I think it's the President's Tour at Peerless. And at the end of that, we got to sample a variety of their gift shop only single barrel releases, and they had a single barrel double oak, and that was the one I think everybody who was there ended up buying.
Yeah, I've heard the I recently got the double oak Peerless, which is really good, but everyone well, not everyone. There's probably a handful of comments in my little video that I got to try the single barrel double oaked or the double oaked rye. So it seems like Peerless is one of those brands that really knows how to do the double oaking.
Yeah,
that hits the profile that I enjoy.
yeah. I mean, I started trying their stuff. I was going down when my daughter first moved to Kentucky. I was going down there every 3 or 4 weeks, and I again usually end up at the tasting bar at Justin's, and they seem to have a really good relationship with Peerless. So I tried a lot of their stuff, and their initial stuff was getting put out at like 3 and 4 years, and when it was good, it was good. And there was things that it's like, yeah, this is young, it's not there yet. But as in the last couple years, as their stuff got a little bit older, they've really found their lane.
And like I mentioned in one of my videos, they are now bottles that we could find here in Michigan. So
yeah,
and I want to say, just this past week, I saw one of the local stores get the double oaked rye. So that's one that's definitely on my radar for sure right now.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of saving my bullets for next week when we go down to Bardstown again. You're going to the Blitz?
Yes, I am. You're going to the Blitz?
We're going. We're going to head down.
Fantastic.
Thursday, I think, and drive down. So you'll probably get there after dinner on Thursday, and we're staying at that the Bardstown Fairfield for 3 nights.
Same.
So yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
Yes, it is.
And now that I have a little bit of an idea of what to expect, having gone to that Junkies meetup, I think I won't be such a deer in the headlights.
It can be overwhelming.
Completely. The hotel and the bottle share for the Bourbon Junkies event was just completely.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Where do I start? Yeah. What do I do? It was bonkers.
And if you don't mind me putting a couple shameless plugs in right now, I did put out a video this morning that my bottle share etiquette part 2, especially for such meetups. And then on Friday morning when we head down, I've been invited to join up with Hello Again Whiskey Friends and Dusty Dan at Hard Truth to pick a rye. So
Now,
we're
Hard
gonna
Truth that's in Indiana, right?
That's in Indiana. It's around Nashville, Indiana, a little bit more than an hour north of Louisville. And we're going to be picking a rye barrel, and then that we'll do that in the afternoon, and then we should be back to Bardstown before dinner time. Or
That
by
sounds
dinner
awesome.
Yeah.
I know when I was looking at, kind of plotting my course home from my last trip to Kentucky, I looked at, geez, we could swing just a little out of the way and go to Hard Truth, and that sounds like an experience. So I don't know. We'll see how things go. I don't have a ton of things planned other than, I know that we're going to get down late Thursday. I'm going to meet up with Marty, maybe do something Thursday night, and then
I
I
get
think
to
the
see
event
Marty
doesn't
too?
really start until Friday evening, right?
Right. Yeah, which is good because Maureen has to work on Thursday, so
Yeah, I got something in the morning, so I can't head out like right away.
yeah. But yeah, so I mean, she's going to have a quick turnaround for getting home Thursday night and us leaving bright and early on Friday to make sure that we're down there in plenty of time to.
But no, that should be
Make it
awesome.
together.
It does seem like there's a lot more people that I've talked to on other channels, like Marty, like Dusty Dan, Darrell, and Kelsey that are making the trip down. So I'm excited to meet those guys and
Yep, I might.
just let it rip a little bit.
Yeah, there might be like a bunch of piano twos that I have to deliver at there to not to go too inside baseball, but
yeah, I gotta tell you that this one that I'm drinking right now, this is phenomenal. This is one of the best things I've tried this year.
well, maybe I'll torment you and bring that bottle with me.
If you've got just a little bit left, save it, man. It's just because you're not gonna. Oh, you gotta. Oh, hey. Birdie.
I'm not worried about killing a bottle. It's that's one of the things that's kind of happened in my evolution over time. There's no bottle that I can't kill because
and I get what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. And when I look at it like, oh my God, I can't get this, I can't get that, the FOMO, there's always something else coming out next week or next month.
There's always,
and what? It's going to be just as good or better.
Yes.
And if you try to, if you get on that mindset, like I got to have this, I got to have that, you're going to end up 10 times worse than we are and have your entire basement full of shots.
Yeah.
I mean,
in terms of my luck, back in 2020, the Total Wine down in Kentucky, I was buying through there and ended up, I'll sign up for their allocated lotteries. I didn't hit one, but I got this email out of the blue from them. It's like, hey, we know we didn't pick you before, but we got a bottle for you now. And they had a King of Kentucky for me.
Oh, shit.
I would not tell people what bottle it was until it was in my hand because I didn't jinx it. I thought it was one of these you might already be a winner emails.
Mm-hmm.
And
sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, but that bottle's now getting closer to the kill zone. But I've shared it with so many people that it's like when it's gone, it's gone. It's like that one became that one's a house pour. You swing by the house, I'm more than happy to pour it for you. But that one doesn't go out as a sample.
All right. So I see Mark Boyer is here in here, and I talked to Mark earlier today, and Mark, you tell me if I'm wrong, but he says he's got a bottle of Old Carter that he has never opened. And I said, dude, I mean, you're waiting for a better occasion to open it up. Here's your opportunity, man. So, Mark, I don't know what batch it is or whatever, but if you're going to get after it, let us know in the comments. I'm curious to know what you got and what your thoughts are, buddy. If it's anything like this one we just drank through, you're in for a treat, man. All right, so we've got one more, and this one is just a hair shy of hazmat. And let's see, it says American whiskey batch 4, 139.6 proof. So do we know what year this one was put out?
I believe this one also came out around 2020.
Okay.
I think their batch numbers were pretty close to each other in terms of when they were released. So, and I know if it didn't come up in 2020, that's the year that I bought it in.
Okay. And what was the year that you said that they kind of took off? Was that 2020?
That was the year. Yeah, they started their dropping whiskeys in 2018, 2019, but it was 2020 that it kind of blew up. And it was funny because for as many trips as I did down to Kentucky, when the kiddo went to work, I'd normally just hunt. And there's not many liquor stores within 50 miles of Louisville that I've not been in at least once. And I would see it at a lot of different stores. I mean, even some holes in the walls and not the best of neighborhoods, they'd have a bottle or two of it sitting on their shelf. And I went down one time and literally the Old Carter rapture happened. Stores that I would regularly go to and see the same bottles still sitting there, it was all gone. All the bourbon and American whiskey just disappeared. And then by the next trip down, all the rye was gone as well.
So I've only been to Louisville once. We go down to when we go down to Kentucky, we usually stay in Lexington. I've got family down there. Last time we went, we did Lexington, and then we actually stayed in Bardstown as well. So we got to see Bardstown a little bit, but Louisville I've only been to once. It was kind of like at a tail end of a trip. It was during a pandemic, and a lot of stuff still wasn't really, didn't have like their normal hours. Like I remember we were basically right downtown on Whiskey Row, and like Old Forester was closed.
Right.
And Angel's Envy was closed, or what?
Yeah.
The things that I was kind of hoping to see while we were there for the night were all closed. So we ended up just kind of walking around, and it didn't have the best time in Louisville, but I know there's a lot of stuff there that I want to see now. So I know I got to get back there and give it another shot, because the last time it just didn't. You didn't have a good time. Nothing was open.
Right. Oh yeah. No, several of my trips down there were just like that. But yeah, Marty, that's why I saved this glass for this one.
All right. Now that you want to talk about limited, I want to say that's one of about 12 at this point.
I am. See again, lucky beyond belief.
All right, so this one on the nose to me is like vanilla frosting, like really dialed into vanilla, like that vanilla, vibe.
Yes.
Like buttercream, maybe. Yeah, it smells delicious. It smells like a cake.
Yeah. Now I want to go have cake.
Yeah, it smells amazing. All right, so Marty says, Gary, if this isn't Tom's favorite, I'll be surprised. So Marty, you've had your share of these, it sounds like, huh? Ooh. All right, here we go. Oh, wow, that really just explodes on your tongue. Whoa. Ooh. All right, so Yeah, that is just bursting with flavor. That cake just kind of explodes. I still get the vanillas. I get some caramels. I get like cinnamon spice. Um, yeah, there's a lot going on in this one.
Yeah.
And then that finish is it's like nuclear. Oh wow. Whew.
Get a
You-
little
you're
bit of
sounding-
posh
oh, there
spice
you go.
on it too.
You get a little spice at this one, or at the end of this one.
I get a little posh spice on this one too.
I'm getting a little more sporty on the.
Thank you. Thank you for catching the reference.
But hey, it's scary good.
Well, I'm glad you're not a baby about the proof.
I think we hit them all.
Just ginger
Most
to
of
go, but yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, that is something.
But if you had your choice of any of these, tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
I'll You just won the internet. Yeah, this is something. This is unique.
Yes.
So while the last one kind of hit me in in the feels because it's kind of familiar to the stuff that really speaks to me. This is something different altogether, but I do love it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But I mean, so if you've had MG like 13-year MGP light whiskey, Obtanium, Penelope, Bull
Mhm.
Run, there's quite a few companies that have released that. What they end up, what they end up doing with the rebarreling and the blending, they take something that's nice but fairly pedestrian, and it becomes this.
Wow. Yeah, that's insane. Mark, I see your message. I appreciate you stopping by and checking us out, dude. Good to see you. All right, let me say this one. Crushable at that proof point. I don't know if I would say crushable. I think this would crush me if I drank more than about 2 ounces of it, Marty.
But you would pass out happy.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'd have great dreams.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, take it easy, Mark. I'll talk to you soon, man. Yeah, wow, this is. I'll tell you what, Gary. I knew that these were going to be good. This flight, from start to finish, and it's not disappointed at all. And that makes me happy because you always try when you get into this, hobby, I guess, whatever. I always like to try things that are new and interesting, unique, and good. Right?
Yes.
And to me, that's what these all are, and I
Yep.
love it. There's nothing more satisfying when you're in this hobby than finding something new that you think is just amazing. And
Yes.
yeah, I think you've done that here with in terms of sharing these with me. These are just outstanding.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that rye right now. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna go to that one after I'm done here. Go back to that batch 4. These are
it's
outstanding.
I mean, if you were to rank them, I
Okay.
mean, I mean, what finishes fifth is just by virtue of things being so damn good.
Right, exactly. It's not that it's bad. It's just it's not
Right.
as amazing as the other 4.
Right.
And
It's like
if I'm
who's,
gonna,
who's I was going
what
to
do you
say
say?
who's the dumbest person in Mensa? I mean, that's kind of the conversation here.
Yeah, I could give you my ranking, but yeah, these are all just outstanding. I'm trying to think if I like this one better than the last one on the strength of it's a little bit more unique as opposed to just right in my
Yeah.
wheelhouse.
I mean, it's tough when something hits you right in the wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm trying new things, that last one, that's the profile that speaks to me. But this is just like a new animal. This one right here. Wow. I mean, this is 13 years old too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely not over oaked. I don't get a ton of oak. I just get so much, vanilla. Um, and that's a note that I really like. If you get like a very discernible vanilla, I love that note. Um, Vanilla, caramel. I mean, it sounds mundane as far as describing a note. Like, oh, I mean, you could be describing anything, but if it's just that well done and that pronounced, it's amazing.
It's yeah. I mean, there's so again, and I always feel like a douche when I end up telling these stories, but when I got a chance to try E.H. Taylor Warehouse C,
Hmm.
that to me, it was a singular vanilla note, but it was the best damn vanilla I ever had. And even though it was like very one note, it was perfectly executed. And it's just,
Yeah, sometimes
for
it
what
just grabs you, and you're like,
yeah.
yeah, well, I love
Yeah,
it.
so it was at 100 proof. It wasn't, it wasn't overly, didn't have the complexity of a lot of other great pours that I had. It came in with that vanilla, and it kept it all the way through, and you know, it was just beautiful. Even though lacking the complexity, lacking some of the, other great whiskeys that I've had that have, the nose is one thing, then the palate becomes something else, and it transitions then into the finish, and it's just, this, great roller coaster experience. That one was just one thing, but just done perfectly.
Yeah, that sometimes that's all you need. Yeah, I friggin' love these last two, especially, man.
So
Um,
now what you forced me to throw it to add to the bag for next weekend.
all right, now what does that say? It says poor man's.
Old
Most.
Carter American whiskey.
Okay,
So I took
13
a
year.
13-year hazmat obtainium light whiskey, and it spent a week in a mason jar with a toasted charred oak stave.
A mason jar. I'll
Well,
think of a mason jar.
well, I mean, I had to put it in something that would fit
Oh,
both
you created this. So this is a
I
this is a
created
gear. This is a world's worst bourbon channel one-off.
Yes,
Okay.
which I do have the ability to make it more than a one-off, but it when I've shared it with people, and it was mostly shared,
Mhm.
it it hits a lot of the same notes as the Old Carter American whiskeys, but it's not as composed. It's you can tell the difference between these two things,
All right.
but it's pretty damn good for ultimately about $70.
Yeah, this one's just giving me the biggest old Kentucky hog, man. It's just like, whew.
Or Indiana hug, as the case may be.
Whatever you want to call it, the biggest hug.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna tell you. I think I'm gonna rank these for you for whatever this is worth. Like you said earlier, all outstanding, just different degrees of awesome. I think my least favorite was probably the single barrel, and again, it's awesome.
It,
Not
but
quite up to the other four.
and if you've had some double-digit age good single barrels, you've been there before.
Yeah. Like some Elijah Craig's, some
Yeah.
Four Roses, but
Yeah.
this is right in there with some of some of the better ones even.
Right. And again, not that anything is bad here. It's just
Different degrees of good.
right.
I think after that, boy, really like that batch 4, but I really like that rye. Those two are competing for 3 and 4. Oh, I might give the edge to that batch 4. So maybe I'll say batch 4 comes in at 3, the rye comes in at 4, and then the top 2 are the last 2, and it's like 1 and 1A. Um, to give Marty his flowers here, I'm probably going to say that 13 year, the last one, is my favorite, because not only is it amazing, but it's a different animal to me.
Yeah.
The the other one is again right in my wheelhouse. We'll put that in second place, but what a amazing lineup here, Gary.
Yeah.
So grateful that you were able to share these with me, man.
Yeah. And the very old Carter puts this to shame. I mean, I wish I could articulate how good that stuff is.
It is tricky. It is an art as far as describing notes and articulating how they translate. And what I find, as somebody that's doing the reviews or whatever, I like to think I'm pretty intelligent. I like to think I got a pretty good command of the English language. I'm pretty well educated, but I still struggle with how do I say something other than vanilla.
I,
I mean, so you watch these channels like Jason or Matt Porter or the Junkies, and how they describe notes. I mean, it seems so effortless, right? But it is a lot harder than it sounds, or than it appears.
Yeah. I mean,
I could feel it, but it's hard for me to convey that to you or the next person,
right.
whoever's watching.
Before I got into bourbon, I was big into craft beers. I was also big into wine, and I started to try to make an effort to get better at picking up on notes in that. And what I found is I had to be as conscious of picking up notes when I was having food as I was when I was drinking the wine, because your palate, and I've gotten into this discussion with quite a few people and with people that have been said to have great palates, and they've said, I don't think my palate is necessarily better than anyone else's, but my memory and connection to tastes and notes and things that I've had is probably better than other people's. And
how you draw on that is another
right.
thing. When I was on the stream with Kelsey and Jarrell, and in when I watched Jarrell, I mean, he can really pick out notes and headshot a lot of these things. And
yeah,
to me, kind of watching him, work through them, it's amazing. And I was asking him, how do you do this? And he's like, I can remember what I was doing when I was drinking them, and he kind of draws on that memory. Like, how you keep that organized in your brain is impressive.
Have you ever seen 50 First Dates?
Yes.
I'm like 10-second Tim. At 10-second Tim, when I drink things, it's like I can kind of go through, and then like 5 minutes later, you ask me about it. It's like,
it was good.
Vanilla.
Caramel.
It tastes like fire. And this is why when Matt Madness eventually rolls around, it's probably going to be a bleep show with me. Although
I'm right there with you.
I ended up doing a on Independent Joe's channel. We traded a set of it was a blind for each of us, where he kind of gave one of my favorites, what I think will be his favorite controversial pour in a store pick. That was and
So there's a theme.
And I, you know, it's like I was fully expecting to just be, you know, a flaming pile of dog poop on that. And fortunately, one of the 4 bottles that he poured, it hit some memory on me, and it's like, I think this is Knob Creek. It's like, I think it's a high age Knob Creek, and because, you know, there was some connection to
some of those synapses were firing.
Right. It's like, you know, it's like this note, this note, this note. And it, you know, I thought it was like, I think I said it was like a Knob Creek 15, and it ended up being like one of these higher age special Knob Creek releases.
Oh, wow.
But I ended up getting just about every point that I scored out of the 4 pours on that one bottle. Because like I hit proof, I hit age, I hit distillery, I hit, you know, whether it was, you know, whiskey type or whatever it was, I, you know, if I got 7 points, I got 6 points on that bottle. So, but otherwise I, you know, and that's the reason that a lot of these bottles behind me are still so full is I will just bounce around, and I never really, you know, I have a tough time picking up like profiles of distilleries because I don't really drink any one distillery enough to burn into my mind what it is.
You know, that might be why I'm kind of right there with you, is that I just, you know, I don't just, hey, you know, I got to have all the wild turkeys. It's like, okay, I'll grab a wild turkey. I'll grab a Ben Holiday. I'll grab Bill Austin. So I'm all over the place. So some things are very distinct and might stick with me a little bit, but, you know, I might not be able to pick out like, wow, are these all wild turkey or are these all Buffalo Trace?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, Heaven Hill and Jim Beam have a certain profile to them.
Yeah, I think Beam has that kind of peanutty, you know, note,
and
a lot of times anyway.
Yeah, and Heaven Hills is a little bit more snickery, but
yeah, like very,
still does.
It's very like very viscous caramel.
Like yeah,
but yeah, I mean, but if you're able to pick that out, not knowing anything going in, that's a talent. That's difficult.
Yeah. So, you know, anytime I'm anything close to correct on something, I
feel good about it.
And you know, so I've been lucky enough to go on a lot of barrel picks in that, and the picks I've been a part of have had a great, you know, have had a really good track record.
So that's one thing I've never done is go on a barrel pick.
Yeah. But if
I've talked to a couple of people about maybe doing one in the future, but it's something that I've never done. So it's something that I'm looking forward to kind of getting into and seeing, you know, where does that take me in terms of my whiskey journey, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm in a lot of these groups like you are, and you know, you see the picks and what's going on, and it looks like a lot of fun, but it's not always easy for me to get down to like, you know, Tennessee or Kentucky or wherever.
Right. Yeah. Having the time, having it be on a day that you can actually get away. Some of the groups I'm a part of, you know, just trying to like schedule one is just a nightmare to try to get the usual team together. But I mean,
you know, getting 2 dudes to coordinate is difficult. Getting like 4 dudes or 6 dudes.
Yes. But I mean,
just a nightmare.
but I always joke that I'm the Forrest Gump of barrel picks, because when I go there, I know good when I have it. I know great when I have it. Don't ask me to.
Yeah, don't pull up the notes.
Don't ask me to break it down on nose, palate, finish in explicit, glorious detail. But when I have good, I know I have good, and you know that. And I've been fortunate to always be on picks with a lot of people that also know what the hell they're doing. So I think I get a lot of unearned credit for being able to pick great barrels, because it's like somebody on
Worked
a
out that way.
on a football or baseball
You're-
team. It's like, dude, there's there's a half dozen other people that make this stuff happen, and that so.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed the picks that your group has put out this year since I've been a part of it, since you're kind enough to invite me to join.
Appreciate that.
I'm looking forward to whatever's next. So let me ask you this. So I know you're going down to Bardstown next week. Anything that you want to promote? Anything with the channel that you want to discuss? Anything interesting coming up? Put it out
So so the thing with my channel is since I don't really do reviews or traditional whiskey content, I record and publish as ideas come to me. So I want to shout out a thank you to Beyonce for dropping the Sir Davis whiskey, because otherwise you would have been even longer without a new video.
Let me pause right there for one. Are you gonna try that whiskey or not? If it falls into your lap, I suppose. But
yeah, if given the opportunity, I'll try it. Certainly, I'll try just about anything. Even if it's something I will probably hate. If somebody says, this is really something. It's kind of like, man, this movie is so bad. It's like, oh, well, now I got to watch it. I can.
What's funny to me is with this, especially this Beyonce whiskey. All right. So you go on Instagram, right? Anyone that's touched it, oh my God, it's great. What? I'm sure it's not, right? So I think it might have been SLB that put out a review this week or last week. And Kurt's like, yeah, it's not good.
You know what?
Like, thank you. I wanted a real review. I don't want to hear from an influencer or a promoter what this is. I want to know, is this legitimately good or is this shit?
I mean, when a bottle like that drops, it's like, okay, celebrity whiskey, for people that are deep into whiskey, celebrity whiskey, strike one.
Right.
Man, that's a really cool looking bottle. Strike two. Oh, it's priced well beyond what it should be for its age and proof. Strike three. It's probably a great whiskey for people that aren't into whiskey.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's not for us. It's for somebody who's maybe maybe drinks, I don't know, seltzers or vodka, and like, oh well, Beyonce's got a whiskey, let's give it a try. But anyway, it was refreshing to watch a video that was like, yeah, it's not good.
I mean, I
think he said he liked Traveler better.
Well, I mean, I think it was the email from Binny's that said that that they had it in stock and had a little bit of background, and I read that and just immediately it's like, well, there's one obvious joke here, and I better go make it before somebody else gets the chance to. So,
and then I saw somebody in the Poor Nerds group made the same joke.
Well, I think it was me in the group that made the same joke, but I'm allowed to plagiarize myself.
Oh man, yeah, that was fun for me to see a YouTube video that's not affiliated or not being paid to promote actually give their opinion.
Yeah, so. But I mean, if you go back and look at Traveler, and I did get a chance to try that, and it's what I thought it was. Kind of like when I got to try, was it Redneck Riviera whiskey? It's exactly what I thought it was. It's not for the whiskey nerds. It's not for the people that are neck deep into the bourbon whiskey culture.
Mm-hmm. It's for French people that are maybe looking to a reason to get into something different. I get it. But the premise for that one was like it was picked by a dude. I'm not into country music. I forget the guy's name. Stapleton.
Chris Stapleton. Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't he? He's like his thing was like he's sober, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
That seemed like an obvious like conflict there. Like what?
Yeah. That just
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Maybe put out your own coffee brand. I don't know. This
Yeah, or something different. I didn't get
right.
hey, sober dude promotes a new whiskey. Like what?
Yeah.
Tell me you've never tried this without telling me you've never tried this.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to let's see, what was it? There was I can't remember the name of it. I think it was the Brad Paisley whiskey. Was it like American something or other? But that was basically a deluxe Bardstown fusion. It was good. It wasn't worth the money they were charging for it. If it would have been priced like the fusions were priced at, no
What were
complaint.
the fusions like about $60?
50, $60, yeah.
And now those are gone, right? Those are replaced essentially by the origins.
Correct.
So let me ask you: Are there any bottles that you're looking forward to trying or trying to snag while you're down in Bardstown?
I this year I tried to commit to a net zero bottles for the year, and that means any bottle that comes in, one has to leave.
Okay, all right, okay,
because it's empty, it's gifted, or maybe somebody else took it off my hands in some other matter. But if I got to try the Russell's 15, if I came across one of those at anything near retail, grab that in a heartbeat.
So you have got to try it?
I have gotten to try it.
All right.
Fantastic. I might have a Michter's Toasted Barrel waiting for me when I get down to Kentucky, but it's not this year's.
I saw that at a local store. It was like $225.
Yeah, that's like double retail on that.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, well, you keep it. I'll look at something else.
Right, but
so here's a question for you, Gary. It says, "What's the last $50 bottle that you bought?"
Oh, the last $50 bottle that I bought. Did I get something at 50? I mean, I know there's one coming up. I went down to the group I'm a part of to Buffalo Trace and picked a Buffalo Trace one. So that one will be less than 50.
It's a barrel pick.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be a barrel pick that I bought, because I really haven't bought a shelfer bottle in probably 2+ years.
Okay. I want to say the last $50 bottle I bought was at Dragon's Milk Origin, which I really enjoyed. And I know that you are over there as far as location wise. You have, I don't know I think it might have been your wife that said that you've done a few picks over there.
Yes. So the last sample in the set that I gave you was one of the picks that I did there.
I still have it. I haven't opened it. That's the 8-year wheat whiskey.
Yes.
All right. So you said a moment ago the whip. You said that you were big into craft beer, right?
Yes.
All right. So candidly, what was your opinion on New Holland beer?
I had a ton of the different Dragon's Milk releases. I loved Dragon's Milk. The job I had previously to where I'm at now brought me to Grand Rapids on a regular basis, and ended up going to a pub that had Dragon's Milk on draft. It was the regular one, and the first time I tried that, it blew me away. So I mean, I've had a lot of the different variants.
Yeah, I think the variants were what kind of sucked me in. Now the original Dragon's Milk, it wasn't too.
It's on draft. It's a different animal on draft, like a lot of beers are.
Yeah, Fair.
But yeah, the different variants. Yeah, I did. You know, the poet was a solid one. I mean, I've had a lot of different Dragon's Milk beers that I've really liked. I was actually just at the Knickerbocker in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, it's like the Taj
cou-
Mahal of craft
yeah,
beer sites.
couple. You know, it was just this last weekend, and they had an apple kombucha on draft. They had
I got
they
some
have
wild
that
stuff now.
they have that tangerine like
Space Machine or whatever.
They had a peach one on draft, and
So,
I ended up getting the flight, and it was I had everything I had on the flight was really good.
you know, I was not the biggest fan of their beer, and you know, the Dragon's Milk was kind of a different like subcategory. I didn't care for their IPAs, or you know, the Poet was okay, um, but it wasn't until I discovered like the Dragon's Milk like limited releases that I
Yeah,
really was like, wow, you know, these, you know, I could make some good stouts here, and it was like the Dragon's Milk limited with like chilies or something that was outstanding, and like coffee and chocolate.
yeah.
And you know, each year they came out with something a little bit more goofy. It kind of got
Right.
away from those, but I wasn't the biggest. You know, I thought their beer was overall like pretty average. So when, you know, I kind of got more into to whiskey, I was like, all right, well, Dragons, you know, New Holland or Dragon's Milk's putting out whiskey. How good is it really? You know what I mean? Because they're kind of beer first and
Right.
second. So I think it was last year I got it was a rye that the Bourbon Junkies put out as a single barrel pick,
Yep.
and just kind of blew me away. I was like, wow, this is really way better than I was expecting. And you know, at the event last, I guess it was 2 months ago, man, whatever that was, the Bourbon in the Barn event where New Holland was there. They had their limited, what was it, like their toasted honey and a toasted
Yeah.
maple. They were really good. And
So
so I finally picked up that Dragon's Milk Origin for $50 or $55.
yeah.
And it's a banger of a bottle. So
So
I mean, I would have never guessed that brand would have that much chops when it came to whiskeys. I guess what my point is.
so when the laws changed on distilling, New Holland was actually the first distillery to start up in Michigan. And you know they were putting out the vodka, gin, rum, you know
Yeah.
the full
Yeah, I remember
line.
they're goofy labeled on some of those things a lot,
Yeah,
like 10 years
and
ago.
and s- and it and not surprisingly, I think it took them a while to kind of find to find
Here's
their
Thomas.
gear with the whiskey, because they some of their earlier releases, like a lot of places, low proof young whiskey, that is not a recipe for success.
Yeah, I want to say the
And
first whiskeys they were putting out wasn't it like beer barrel eight. Was it called the
well,
Knickerbocker?
they had a beer
Just didn't sell
barrel.
good.
Yeah, they had a beer barrel bourbon that I bought a 375 of, and I gave it away before I went through it. And this is when I had like 20 bottles, not 400. And I didn't make it through a 375 of it. Now they, but as time has gone
That was
by,
probably a long time ago too, right?
yeah, it was probably my first year or so into it, so probably 2020-ish. But the group that I used to be a part of, when we were doing a lot of these New Holland picks, we did a beer barrels bourbon like single barrel, and I think at that point, I don't know if they were aging it in Dragon's Milk barrels before, but this one was, and it was a completely different animal from that other one that I've had. The one that I got you, It's a wheat whiskey. They put out years back a Pitchfork wheat whiskey. And again, I think that was 80 proof. I don't even know if it made it to 4 years. And from everybody that I've talked to that have tried it, it wasn't even hot garbage. It was just 80 proof garbage. But
low proof garbage.
I think they kind of figured out what they needed their mash bill to be. I think they left it in the barrel longer. They started putting out things at higher proofs, and what do you know? Good things happen when you go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I will say that we've gone to their main distillery, whatever you want to call it, out in New Holland or New Holland in Holland.
Yeah,
and it's an awesome venue. And I
love
remember
it.
having flights of like one-offs with my wife, and they had some really awesome stuff. But it's just like it was like one of those brands with me that was like they would put out very average IPAs, very average, porters or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like the variants of the Dragon's Milk that I really got interested in their brand. And I just poured that. Oh my goodness. The 8-year wheat whiskey from New Holland, the old whip. This is hazmat, 142.3 proof, and it is dark as night.
Yeah.
This looks like a Texas whiskey or something.
And then didn't know if you noticed
8 summers old. Okay, I like the label, so it's 8 years old. Okay,
right? But do you notice the picture of the wizard?
it looks like I don't know, like a cartoon Gandalf or something.
It's Stewie from.
Oh, okay, all right, I see it now.
Hence the old whip.
Whip. Okay, all right.
Whip. So again, if you get the reference.
Oh boy, this smells delicious. Yeah, that is it. Is it all wheat?
Yeah, it's 80 wheat, 20 malted barley.
I swear I taste rye.
So they're on their whiskey mash bills. I believe they're all 20 malted barley, and they said, because they were a brewery first, that's kind of one of the reasons that they're going higher barley on the whiskeys as well. But I will for those of you that are
a hitter.
For those of you that are going to be down in Bardstown next week, that will be one of the bottles in my bag. It won't be. It's going to be one of the other barrels. It's still an 8-year. It's not that same barrel, but I've got another one that I'm going to be bringing with me.
So this does kind of remind me of the old Carter that was 131.2 proof with the thick, rich, viscous profile. Yeah, I would have never guessed this is a wheater.
Yeah, I don't know what wheat whiskey that I've had that compares to this. It's
one comes to mind, and you probably have this one. Is that it's the NP1, the that Nick pick from Evernorth.
The Cedar Ridge.
It's higher proof, dark, and you would never guess that it was all was it malted wheat, right?
It was a malted wheat, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, this is something.
Yeah.
What's going on, Randall? Whiskey Shaman. If you're not familiar with the Whiskey Shaman, check out his channel. He's got a YouTube channel, and he also does podcasts. Check him out. Good dude.
So before these ones got bottled, it was right around the time of the first pours in the park. And Peter from New Holland brought us a barrel sample of this one, and we got to share it with a lot of the different channels that were there, and I think I think it changed a lot of minds of what New Holland is doing and what New Holland kind of had sitting
Yeah.
back.
I want to say it was that Junkies pick last year that really it brought me around. And it's as far as did you get that pick, that rye?
Yes. Yeah.
So and to me that's one of the more unique profiles of any whiskey I've had. It is straight up like a Hawaiian punch.
Yeah.
Like, no mistake. And I got a little bit more of that. Maybe not. That's not the best way to say it. I got a little bit less of that, so it's a little bit dialed back in that Origin series, the Dragon's Milk or like the shelf version.
Yeah.
They've got like a nice, unique profile that they're cranking out, I think. And as far as off the shelf Michigan bourbons, that might be the best one.
So I don't know what level of credit myself and Travis, my partner in Pour Nerds, can take for this, but we were all over Dan Shook too. It's like we kept telling him, it's like, you make the trip to New Holland, go in their warehouse and try some, you got to at least try it. It's worth the trip across Michigan. And he's like, well, people really haven't heard about it, blah, blah, blah. And then the next thing we know, it's like, hey, we're
this is your state. Be a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, we were in his ear and annoying him for a while. And I'm like I said, don't know if we could actually take credit for it, but they figured it out.
I want to say that Josh from Stuff and Whiskey has a New Holland pick coming up, and it might be that rye. Help me with the branding of it. It's like walleye or something.
Oh, they just released a walleye run.
Walleye run. That's it.
Yeah,
I think that's the pick that Josh is going to be putting out for his group, Stuff and Whiskey.
Yeah.
And he's down in Tennessee, so for him to come up, I don't know if he came up to Michigan to do the pick or if it was like a remote type thing.
Right.
But they are getting some traction nationally.
Yeah.
So that's good to see. I do think that what I've tried of their stuff this last year plus has been really good. It's really of note. And like I said, I think if you want to look at what bourbon we put out here in Michigan from a Michigan distillery that you can readily get, is the Dragon's Milk Origin, is that the best one? And maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but
I mean, in terms of actually what's distilled in state versus
what's distilled here.
If it's not in the top, I mean, it merits being in that conversation, and it does have it. It's pot stilled, but it's so it has some of those pot still notes without having all of the ones that sometimes can be a little off-putting. I know Sean in his reviews has always said it almost comes off a little bit like an Irish whiskey as much as it does a bourbon.
It's got a different profile. I'll say that. I haven't drank a lot of Irish whiskey in a while.
Yeah,
and to me it was kind of just low proof, not a lot of flavor. That's not what I'm getting out of the New Holland stuff.
Right. I mean, when I had the first time I tried Blue Spot, that was a bit of a revelation for me in terms of Irish whiskey, because a lot of the ones that I had as well have been low proof, and they always had that little bit of a metallic taste to me.
Yeah, Irish wasn't my favorite, and one of the ones that everybody kept telling me to try was Redbreast 12. And I want to say it was a lower proofer, and it tasted like nothing. Like there was no discernible flavor to it. It was almost like you've had Caribou Crossing.
I think so. I might have tried
It's
it
like an 80
once.
proof Canadian
Yeah,
whiskey.
yeah.
It's there's
Canadian
just
Blanton's.
there's nothing Canadian blend. It's got the fancy bottle, the fancy top,
Yeah,
but there's no depth. It's all superficial. There's nothing going on the palate. And I was like, wow,
right.
this is lame.
Yeah,
It wasn't cheap. It was probably like a 75 or $80 bottle, and
yeah.
I'll never try that again.
Well, I'm
But
gonna
I've
pull
heard
the
like the cask strength is good. So like, okay, well, whatever. You got me with the 12. It was a
I'm,
waste of 70 or $80, whatever it was. I'm not going back to that.
I'm gonna pull the douche move again. I've been lucky enough to try the Redbreast 27, and
Well,
the one the one or two that I've had of those has been freaking amazing. Now, I'm not spending $500 to $1,000 on a
yeah,
bottle
I'm gonna
of
say
it.
it's like $500 or $700.
I mean, it used to be $500. Now it's trending. I guess all Irish whiskey has gotten much more expensive lately, and the
Really?
27 is closing in on $1,000.
Wow.
But that being said, that was phenomenal.
Do you get down with Scotch at all, Gary?
Um, I will
I mean,
always
if you're
give
into
it a-
Irish, I mean, Scotch is to me, Scotch
well,
is ahead of Irish.
well, no, I'm not really into Irish, but I'm always willing to try. Um, I I own one 750 bottle of Scotch, and it is Ardbeg Corey Vrecken.
Okay, well, that's not a bad one to have.
And what's funny is some of the local guys around here that I traded a lot of samples with. It got to the point of like, we have no more bourbon samples for you. There's nothing that we have that you either haven't tried or have better of. It's like, would you want Scotch samples? Because that we've got plenty of. And to me, I'm one of those people that gets Band-Aid a lot on scotches.
You know,
And
I
that's
I
really
got that.
off-putting to me.
I got it. And it's one of those things, but especially with the peated stuff, the island, right?
Yeah.
It's either gonna speak to you or it's not. Like, I don't think that's something that you warm up to. I think you either you try it and it
Yeah.
speaks to you, or it just you fucking hate it.
Yeah. So they shared a lot with me, and usually the best when I gave them my feedback of, this one didn't offend me, was usually one of my top ratings. But I ended up at a bottle share, and one of the guys, he had a bottle of Ardbeg Black and Ardbeg Corey Vrecken. And I'm like, at that point, I've had probably more than my share, but it's like, what the hell? I'll give it a try. I tried the black first.
Yeah, you
And
you can drink a lot of stuff and then come to Ardbeg and you're still tasting Ardbeg.
yeah,
It's not blending in with
but
anything else.
but the Ardbeg Black, it was like it's Band-Aid that was dipped in really good barbecue sauce. And
Yeah,
then I went to the Corey Vrecken, and it was just the really good barbecue sauce. There was no Band-Aid in the Corey Vrecken, but
see,
everything.
I
The
get the
black
Band-Aid
pepper,
note more in Lefroy than Ardbeg. Ardbeg
yeah,
more to me is the campfire.
yeah,
But yeah, the Corey Vrecken is I think the highest proof of their expressions, right?
yeah,
Like 110 ish.
yeah.
See, I've got a
I
bottle of the Ugadale, which is probably my favorite Scotch that I have.
yeah,
That's the one that's sherry finished.
yeah.
Um,
But I've tried a couple Campbelltowns, including my son-in-law has a Springbank 10, and it's like, well, this is really good. So apparently I like Campbelltown. And then I was down in Louisville, and Top Shelf Dustin brought a couple sherry finish, cast strength, high age scotches. So apparently I like really expensive scotch.
Yeah, that's the thing about Scotch is that it gets pricey in a minute. And what I was going to say is, you're talking about Redbreast. My buddy Todd, we call him Top Shelf Todd. He gravitates towards the really good stuff. And one of the ones that he had recently was the Dark Arts Bruichladdich. And I want to say that those start at around 5, and
Yes.
usually available at around 6-ish.
Right.
But then there's also like some of the other ones that he likes is like the Balvenie Ton, and those are even more expensive. So Scotch gets really expensive really quick.
Yeah. So the ones that he brought a 17-year Glenlivet that was cast strength, a 25-year Glengoyne cast strength, and a 15-year Hazelburn cast strength, all sherry finished. All three of those things were amazing, but I'm pretty sure all three of those things had the price tags to go along with them.
To go with it. See, when I really got into whiskey, Gary, I was, I like the lower proof stuff, so I kind of gravitated to Scotch because most Scotch is like 86 to like 94,
right? Yes,
and all kinds of different finishes and all kinds of different regions, all kinds of different age segments. So, I mean, there seemed to be so much on the map that Scotch could be. And that's kind of the rabbit hole that kind of got me into whiskey.
And I get that
I really got into barrel proof bourbon. That like, wow, there's so much more here than there is in a 90 proof Scotch. That just really sucked me in.
Yeah, I will always try it, and I've tried quite a bit. I've started to, I've found some things that I actually do enjoy. But there's a lot of scotches that I've had that it's just like it's not my jam.
Yeah, fair.
But I will never say that it's bad because I get it. I get that it's a palate thing.
Yeah, it's where are you at on your journey or experience or your arc or what have you.
Yeah.
Cheers Northwest. Thanks for chiming in there. But yeah, Scotch, when I first got into whiskey, that was really, it really spoke to me because, hey, you know what? 90 proof and all these flavors,
right.
And it just, wow, there's so much out there.
Yeah.
And, that kind of climbed the ladder into the higher proof stuff. And then all of a sudden, go back to, a higher end bourbon and the to me, a really good barrel proof bourbon just blew any Scotch out of the water for me.
Yeah, like with meat, with meat and food, they say that fat is flavor. A lot of times with whiskey, the proof is flavor. When you're getting it, when you're not watering it after it's been aged, makes a hell of a difference. Which is some quite a few of the distilleries that are barreling at a very low proof. Michter's is one of them. I think Peerless is putting it in at a lower proof. So you can get these lower proof releases that still have the complexity because they either haven't been watered down, or if they have, there wasn't that much water added to it after the fact.
Mm-hmm. And I can remember back to when I first tried like a really high proof bourbon while I was into Scotch, and I think I came home with like 3 bottles. One was like a Blanton's, which is like what, 92 or 93?
93.
A Scotch, I think it might have been like a Glenmorangie or Glamorangey, whatever you call it, 85-ish, maybe even closer to 80, I forget.
Yeah.
And then a Jack Daniel's barrel proof single barrel. It was like 133 proof. I was trying to, this is when I'm first getting into it, and I was like, what's good here? Okay, well, yeah, I want a Bland's. I know that one. Oh, I want that Glenmorangie, and like, oh, there's a single barrel pick of Jack Daniels. He's like, yeah, you want that? Like, all right, sure. So I remember bringing all three home, and I started with the Bland's. I went to the Scotch, and then at the end of the night, I went to the Jack Daniels. 130. I think this one was like 133, 134 proof.
Yeah,
Drinking like 90-ish, proof whiskey, and it was like, dude, it set my mouth on fire. Like I could taste it for like 4 days afterwards. I'm not kidding. Like I felt like I burnt my palate.
So when
it took me a minute to get back to barrel proof bourbon after that, but yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, it was back. It was probably towards the end of 2020. Yeah, I was hearing so much thing about Elijah Craig Barrel Proof C9919. It's like,
sure.
okay, I made a point to find that, get a bottle of that, and that one's like 136 and change. And I had some in the glass, and I was sipping away at it, and at that time, I would do the acclimation pours to like work my way up to be able to drink something at that proof level. And Maureen had come in and it's like, what's in the glass? And I told her, and she's like, can I have some? It's like, yes, but it's really high proof. It's like, she's like, okay, it's like, I will, I'll sip accordingly. And she has it, and that one like absolutely lit her up. And I'm like, I warned you. Yeah, just remember, I warned you. And she's like, you said it was hot, and I was expecting jalapeno, and I got habanero. It's like I was ready for heat.
She got ghost.
I wasn't ready for that much heat. But then, like about 4 months later, I've got the A120, which proof wise is basically the same. I was drinking that, she takes a sip of that, and it's like, okay, remember a few months ago, it's about the same proof. And, at that point, she had that, and it's like, oh no, this is great. It's like this, it's like this one is, I'm getting all flavor here. I mean, it's definitely in the 130s. But that, at that point, that one didn't light her up like the other one did.
Yeah, it took a minute to acclimate to that.
Yeah,
that proof point. I won't lie. But yeah, I do remember like for an entire weekend, I tasted that Jack Daniels burn.
Yeah, that's not for the faint of heart.
It's really not. If you're just getting into whiskey or bourbon. The Jack Daniels barrel proof is not what you
no.
Where it's that's not novice level. That's
no
like intermediate.
Yeah, but I mean,
once you acclimated though, geez, not much better.
That when I ended up getting one of those, at this point I can go to any bottle on my shelf and drink it as the first pour. At this point, I've gotten to that point where I can deal with the proof, but that, once you acclimate to the proof, just the level, the depths of flavors that you can get from some of these, and that was actually the first bottle from a Brown-Forman product that I ever got banana on.
Yeah,
I don't ever remember getting recognizing banana on anything Old Forester. Anything Woodford, but my barrel, my barrel proof bourbon. That's like when I drank that, it's like I found the banana.
It took me a minute to get there, but once you do get there, it's really pronounced.
Yeah,
I want to say for that first Jack Daniels barrel proof bottle, it was just fucking napalm.
Yeah,
it was what I would drink when I was sick, and I wanted to get rid of. I wanted to sanitize my face because it would kill off anything. It was that high proof.
Well, that's during
during
the
here, Shaman.
yeah, during the bulk of COVID times, it's like, yeah, let's make sure to have something that's 130 plus proof, just to
Yeah, that's killing
not
stuff.
take any chances. Yeah.
You know what? So with this old whip, I am starting to get that fruit punch note at the very end. So it is very distinctly New Holland's mash or aging or whatever. But their flavor profile to me definitely identifies as Hawaiian punch, and I love it. That it harkens back to me to that that giant tin of blue Hawaiian punch that you had to puncture at both sides. I
Damn,
freaking
we're
love
old.
it. Yeah, there's your old head reference right there.
Yeah.
But boy, I enjoy their profile. I
Yeah.
really do.
Well, yeah. The other thing about this one, it was a 30-gallon Kelvin Cooperage barrel. So so we ended up actually picking 5 barrels of the 8-year stuff, and the yields on them, I think, some of the yields were like 45 bottles.
So they're like a third of the way full or a quarter of the way full?
I think, yeah. I mean,
Or no, if they're smaller barrels, I guess. Okay, never
I
mind.
mean, but yeah, even with them being smaller barrels, there is a fair amount of angel share gone. One of them was, when we were sampling, was literally empty. Like we went to sample of it,
That's empty barrel.
and like they couldn't get a glass of whiskey out of it. But the yields were stupid low, but it's like when we tried them, and when we first tried them, we didn't know the proofs on them. So when they first told us the proofs on them, we thought they were bullshitting us. It's
I
like,
guess you got to
this.
figure if it's a super short barrel, it's got to tend or track towards higher proof, right?
Um, I mean, it can. I think, I think a lot of whether you gain proof or lose proof, even with evaporation, might have to do with, are you getting those high temperature swings or not? Because I mean, there's
I
there's
think we
some,
get a pretty good variation of highs and lows here in Michigan.
yeah. Because I mean, if you think about like the Remus Gatsby's, those were barrel strength at 98 proof,
Mhm.
but like 15-year whiskey. So I'm sure there was no shortage. There was a fair amount of angel sharers in those barrels, but they lost proof. They didn't gain proof.
Yeah, it's like the Elijah Craig, 18 comes in at about 90 proof or something.
Well, although I think they do proof those down.
They
The
proof
Elijah
those down?
Craigs. I'm pretty sure they do, because I mean they're always at the same proof.
It doesn't say barrel strength, so yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that old whip. Oh, that packs a wallop.
Well, we definitely climbed the proof ladder tonight.
For sure. And I think everything kind of, if you want to look overall, things kind of got better as they get higher. At least for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was fun, man. I appreciate you you coming on and joining me and drinking through these and bullshitting.
It was a great time. I appreciate you having me.
And I look forward to seeing you guys back in Bardstown. Bardstown should be crazy, right? Yeah, I watched everybody on Instagram go to the Kentucky Bourbon Fest, and that looked silly. But that looked like too much people for my life.
The fact that you made it to Bourbon in the Barn, you at least have a better idea of what you're in for, and stay hydrated, pace yourself. There's a couple things you can do to have a really good time without without just absolutely wrecking yourself.
Yeah, pace. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes, and you know, staying disciplined. I mean, one of the things that I found is you have to be willing to pass on things that you've had before, even if they're great. Um, because otherwise, it's so easy to get caught up in the, oh, that's a great bottle. Let me try that again, and it's just like,
Yeah, you gotta save your bullets.
and this is why I've learned that I have to drink out of a Glen, because I know how to pour a Glen. If I switch to a Kenzie or any other glass, I always end up over pouring my sample pours,
Okay, you don't
and
know what you're pouring.
that's something that will get me into trouble. If I'm working with the Glencairn all night, I I can pour, I can pace myself, I can have a great time, I can feel great, and I can go late into the evening without wrecking myself.
That's a crafty veteran right there, coming through with the advice.
Uh you only have to get it wrong, what really wrong, once or twice to not want to ever get it wrong again.
Yeah, I hear you, man. All right, Gary. Well, hey, man. Again, I do appreciate you coming on. I really thank you for the samples. These were all amazing. Thank you so much for sharing these with me. And I look forward to seeing you at the Bardstown Blitz. Everybody that joined to check out the stream, appreciate you stopping by. Cheers. Till next time. Stay jerky. Take it easy.